welcome back to Nugget Garage. Trying to get my motivation up for this Hayabusa thing by riding a Hayabusa. You forget how talky these things are. I love it. This week I'm going to try and get that cross member welded up. Made a bit of a rear mount for the engine during the week. That turned out pretty good. It should make this morning's efforts pretty fast. I've got a heap of parts coming from the UK, some parts from the States. I've got the Ring Haltech today. I'm thinking about putting a lead on it. I'll explain that. Anyway, I'll get to the shop and I'll show you what I got. It's once again Thursday and I have no video for you, so here we are. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. Been a busy week. Actually, it's going to be a busy couple of months where I've never had so much work on. I'm booked out to October on the dyno. I'm getting back into this today. Got Sam's cool little Fiat here for a flex tune today. I think I've got to do a chaser as well and a 180 with a niche tune. Alright, so this thing, engine's out again. I went and made the other side of the frame similar to the front side. Obviously it sits down, or it's got to sit up a bit higher to clear the cross member. It actually worked out perfect. It sits about 2 millimeters off the cutout in the cross member, so I'm going to plate that up now, and there's going to be a bolt tab over this side, and I'm going to put a plate off here and have some captive bolts in it, so I basically can just sit the engine in the hole, bolt it up from underneath and bolt it to the front. Once that's done and fully welded, I think the actual engine itself is mounted. This cross member the jack's sitting on underneath is barely there, it's rusted. Luckily for me, the radiator I'm going to put in here needs this gone, and this gone, so I'm going to trim this back and put another piece of chrome moly across the front. That'll fix that problem. What else has changed? Oh, my ideas keep changing too. I'll talk about that later. It's to do with throttle body height and bonnet clearance. I mean, I could either go through the bonnet, but that doesn't suit what I do normally. I've got a bloody GTX 55 and a 2J and a K20 and it's under the bonnet. I guess the end game means that I either go through the bonnet, I put a bonnet bulge on it, or I try and lay these 4 throttles over, but there's a water thermostat that kind of limits that. Or I go back to my original silly plan of making a plenum, putting a drive-by-wire throttle on this and putting a Haltech on it, which I'm going to give them a buzz today and see if they want to come to the party with that. Anyway, I'll start cutting up some steel, and I've got to put some strength back into this. Alright, so the profile of this thing's a bit, well, I didn't do a real good job cutting it out. I'm going to have to trim this side back, and the steel I'm using is about 4 or 5 mil thick. I want to try and, well, there's 2 reasons for that. That's all I've got. And the second reason is I've pretty much made this thing weak as, so I figure I can sacrifice a bit of weight for a bit of strength. But what that means is it's probably not going to conform or form to this shape, so I'm going to have to make another panel, one panel here, another one on that bit, and another one on that bit. But it's no biggie. It's going to be some grinding for a second. I'll come back. Alright, so I've cut and welded some plates. I'm not going to bother checking it. I know that I had more than 4mm clearance. This is 4mm steel, and I've taken at least 2mm off this, cleaning it up. This one here may be a little bit close, but it should be right. Alright, so I'll weld this up, and then I'll put it back in the car, and then we'll put that subframe onto it, and we'll try and make that mount, and then we'll pull it apart, and then we'll weld it again, and then we'll put the motor back on the frame, and put the frame back in the car. It's a process. Alright, there you go. That's a bit of work. So I've either forgotten how to weld neatly, or this job probably wasn't cleaned up enough. Alright, I'll cool it down and we'll go and bolt it back in the car. Alright, so cross member's back in. Had a bit of a hairy moment there where the cross member had pulled a little bit and didn't line back up with the bolt holes. So I chucked it in the old pipe bender, cross member straight into 3000, and it fits. So you can now see what I'm going to do here. I'm going to weld a tab onto here that ties into this, and another couple of tabs down here with bolts that are welded to it, so I should be able to sit the whole assembly in and bolt it from underneath. I'm pretty sure that should be enough strength. It's looking good. It's the weirdest looking engine mount I've ever made. Alright, I'll make some tabs. Alright, so this is what I've come up with. Bracket this side, bracket over there. I was going to put brackets down here, and then I realised I moved this pipe up high enough to keep the clearance on the cross member that if I put a bracket out there, the gearbox case and the crankcase hits on it. So that's what it's going to be. If it breaks, I'll fix it later. Yeah, these are all welded up. When I pull this cross member out, I'll get a good weld underneath that, onto the thicker steel that I put there. Alright, I'll get rid of this welder and I'll bolt this frame to the motor, and then we'll put the engine back in. Make sure I can get to all the bolts. Alright, productive morning. Got the motor in. Cross member plated. Everything bolts in, except where I said I should have double checked the clearance on the sump. I probably should have double checked the clearance on the sump, because it's hitting by a mil and that bolt doesn't line up by a mil, but that's no biggie. I've got to pull the cross member out and paint it, so I'll put a channel in there to clear that. I've got a reversing gearbox coming from the UK. It's made by Quaife. It should be here next week. We've also got an output shaft drive coming and a whole linkage kit. I'm going to try and incorporate that angle change into the back chassis for the engine. Hopefully all that stuff gets here next week, and I'll be able to get into that. I'm also going to ring Haltech today. I've decided, I think, to go to a common plenum, a drive-by-wire throttle, which means I can do flat shift and put a strain gauge and all that stuff that I'm uncomfortable with and want to get used to. The main reason is, if I turn out of here, I end up out the bonnet, and I really need to sort of turn down into a plenum, which means I might actually go to a front mount intercooler as well. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll see you next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe.